Welcome out to the show tonight, guys. This is Studio 321. This is your host, Eddie B. So, how you guys doing tonight? I hope you're doing well. I'm doing well, and it's good to be here with you. So, September 13th, there was a gigantic protest held in the UK. Okay, a lot of you probably didn't hear about that, and you probably would think, well, why are you talking about it? Well, here's the thing. It actually has everything to do with us, our culture, and their culture. And I'm gonna get to that in just a minute, guys. If you like my videos, please like and subscribe. Help spread the word, man. You know, like-minded people, we gotta stick together. We gotta spread the word. But anyway, so let's get back to it. Huge protest held in the UK. Okay, now, what is the UK? It's four countries. The UK is England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland. And so what's been going on over there is, basically from like 2020 to 2024, they let in a ton of immigrants from the Middle East. Majority Muslim. I think they let in, but the estimates are like between 2.5 and 3 million immigrants, right? And it's turned into the same shit show that it is in the United States. They brought in all these immigrants. They put them up in hotels. They're feeding them, housing them, doing all this stuff for them for free. And the regular population there is basically, been having a lot of trouble getting by. They're poor. They're on the edge of a recession right now, almost a depression, right? So, same situation. Like what we had going on in Chicago here and New York here is the same that was going on in England. The people are pissed. The immigrants are getting everything for free, and they're getting nothing. They're not getting the help they need, and they're the regular citizens. So it's a familiar situation as to what was going on over here. Okay, so on the 13th, they had a gigantic protest, and it was all it was about anti-immigration. Um, it was hosted by a name of a guy named Tommy Robinson. Okay, now if you don't know who he is, over the last 10 years, he's been a pretty well known political figure in the UK. He's a firebrand, I mean, a real scrappy guy, fighting back against immigration. He's pro England, wants the tradition, just like, again, it sounds familiar. It's the same stuff we got going on over here. Um, they've done everything they can do to stop him. They've arrested him like a dozen times. A bunch of bull crap. I read all his arrest charges. It was, stupid stuff like contempt of court, and he wouldn't let the cops look through his phone one time. When he was ordered to in a traffic stop. Basically, all political prosecutions, right? That's exactly what it's been. It's the same as we saw during the whole Russia thing with Trump. Trust me, everything that is going on over there is mirroring what's going on over here. Okay, so he's been in and out of prison several times because of all this stuff. They still haven't been able to silence him. He organized this protest. Okay, and they're saying the estimates, 150,000 up to 500,000 people showed up to this protest, waving the English flag. I mean, all pro England stuff, kind of like our MAGA crowd over here. Okay, we're always running around waving the American flag. USA, USA. They're doing the same in England. So Keir Starmer is the prime minister of the UK right now. And he even said the other day that rally made him nervous. The sheer numbers that showed up for that rally, up to 500,000 people. I saw pictures of it from the sky view. It was insane. Looked like a sea of people, just madness. You know what I mean? So what does that have to do with us, right? Well, here's the thing. Um, over the years, a lot of the experts have always said, the cultural experts and stuff, they've always said that the UK is always about 20 years ahead of us in culture. In other words, it starts in the UK and ends up over here. We kind of copy them in a lot of stuff, which is true. Back in the 80s, their fashion came over here. I remember all that. All the stuff was coming over when the fashion kind of changed in the 80s. All their music came over. groups like Duran Duran, Pet Shop Boys, all those types of groups that all came from England and the UK. Okay, so that does seem to hold true. It's they're usually about 20 years ahead of us in culture. Well, I think what's going on now is, we're sitting back and again, we copy a lot of their stuff. I think we're looking at what happened with all this immigration over there. And I think it's making us basically change our mind about it. Now, look, here's the problem. The immigration that they get is all Middle Eastern, okay? So it causes real clashing conflicts because let's be honest, when you get Middle Eastern Muslims coming into Christian countries, there's just too much difference, okay? The religions, they do not work well together. The cultures do not work well together. None of it. Really, I mean, if you think about what they have in common, it's almost nothing other than the fact that they're humans, right? In the United States, what we get a lot of immigration, we do get a lot from South American countries, which they do tend to, integrate into our society a lot better, okay? A lot of them are already Christians, you know what I mean? They speak Spanish where we speak English, but there's so much bilingual in our country nowadays that's not even really a problem, okay? So the language isn't a problem, the religion isn't a problem, and we can kind of start there. But this, in spite of all that, it still causes problems here because, again, our citizens look around and go, hey, why are you giving all these people stuff for free? And we're not giving us any help for free, right? Especially during hard times. I think when times are good for everybody, probably nobody would even care about immigration, to be honest. Not many people anyways. But when times are hard, and then you basically you get no help, and then you're helping all these other people who are fresh in the country, that really rubs people the wrong way. So, going back to the UK, you're taking Middle Eastern Muslims who, again, they cannot assimilate into our culture. It's just not going to work. These people are coming over as adults. They already have the culture in their lives of who they are, and it's not going to change. So rather than assimilating, they just band in groups and they try to spread. So basically what they do is spread their own culture, which is causing major problems. Now, again, I think we're looking at that going, I don't think we want to go through that. I think to be honest, I've noticed that we've backed off of a lot of our Muslim immigration to our country. And I think that that's because of what's going on over in the UK. Now, if they don't get something solved real fast, they're going to have a civil war. Now, I know we talk about that over here all the time, but they're way ahead of us down that line. Again, they always say their culture is about 20 years ahead of us. They're there now, okay? They're broke. They're teeter-tottering on a depression, recession type situation. And along with the immigration, and the government has been trying to smooth out all the immigration problems. And so what they've been doing is lying about it, right? So there's been a lot of rapes, a lot of crimes that have been covered up over there by the Muslim immigrants. Because let's be honest, guys, you can say what you want. Their relation to women over there is different than our relation to women in the West. We treat women a lot different over here than they do over there. They kind of look at them, they're like second-class citizens, to be honest. And we don't treat them that way. Yeah, we have our own problems. Yes, we do. There's no doubt about it. Our culture's not perfect. But the way they do it in the Middle East is completely different, and it's just not, it doesn't work. So in the UK, they're having the problems with the way they're treating the women, in the UK. The government's been trying to cover it up because they don't want all this stuff in the public eye. They've actually changed their laws. I don't know if you know this. You can go to prison over there for tweeting something out. Like some of the stuff that I say on my podcast, I would be in prison already for that if I did that in the UK. You can't even tweet stuff. Tommy Robinson went to prison for some tweets he put out. There's been some, you can read articles here and there. You can look it up yourself. There's been some really crazy stuff going on there as far as censorship. But the reason it is because the government is trying to hide all the immigration problems so that it doesn't, inflame the population of England worse. So what I see is they're at a boiling point. They're much further along the line in that boiling point than we are. Again, we have some issues going on over here. Trump and them are working on solving those issues, and it is causing problems here too, no doubt. But over there, they're way further along. I see mass deportations coming over there, and there's going to be some major violence because you have to understand, Middle Eastern culture in the Middle East is a very dominant culture. It is. So basically, it's like you're putting two alpha cultures on the same land and expecting them to get along and hash things out, and it's not going to happen. When when they start deporting all these Muslims in mass, there's going to be major terrorist attacks. There's going to be a lot of severe violence over there. It's going to happen. I don't know exactly when this is going to start. I know Keir Starmer, in my mind, he's the Prime Minister of the UK. I don't think he's going to make it another term. He's not. He's soft. I think they're looking for more like a Donald Trump. Honestly, that's what they're looking for over there. They want a Trump, to be able to push that agenda through because it's going to be a mess. If you guys don't know who Angela Merkel was, she was the leader in Germany for a long time. I think she was the only female leader over there. She was in power 12 years. They loved her in Germany until she let in 2 million Muslims, immigrants, into the country, and then all hell broke loose, and it caused problems. She ended up getting booted. I think she retired, but she didn't retire. She knew she couldn't win again. They were going to boot her because of the problems, and that kind of brings up something in my mind, something to think about. It's like this. People on the right like myself, we get called all these names like we're bad people because we don't want immigrants and this and that. And that's not it. It's not about it's not really about, for me, it's not about the immigrants, to be honest. It's about the culture change. Okay? Now, the right way to do immigration is to immigrate people from like-minded countries, right? Again, we do it from South America, where a lot of them are Christian. They speak Spanish, but we speak Spanish over here too. So, that would be okay. But you can't, the right way to do it is to trickle in, 3, 4, 500,000 a year. No problem, right? They integrate into society. They start families. They become American, and it just, that's the melting pot idea. Okay. Where lumping, 10, 12 million people at one time it's not a melting pot. It can't melt. Okay. What it is it just creates a completely separate culture within your culture. And the people who live here, just like the people in the UK, they're not having it. They're not. Those people have lived there. They have generations of pride, generations of families. And they want to continue that way, and they deserve that, and think about this, right? If you say, oh, that's a ridiculous way to think, what do you think would happen if you took 2 million Americans right now, rounded them up, and dumped them in the middle of the Middle East? Any country, Iran, Iraq, it doesn't matter. Just, drop them off. No military around them, just drop them off. Here, you're immigrants now. All hell would break loose. Hell would break loose. They would be killing them over there. You would be hearing about terrible stuff going on constantly, okay? Because they don't want our culture over there. And that's okay. That's fine. Okay? We don't want their culture over here. They don't want our culture over there. Guess what? If we want to visit each other, you want to go on vacation, go. You want to check it out? I would love to go over there and look at some of the culture, right? See all the stuff over there that's completely different than ours. The architecture, the way they dress, everything. It's different. But that doesn't mean I want their culture over here. We don't need their culture. We have our own. And they would tell you the same thing. And that's not a bad thing, okay? This phenomena is happening all over the world. What that means is, people out there saying, oh, Americans, you're bad. You don't want immigrants. It's all over the world. It's a human nature thing. It's not an American thing. It's human nature. We are tribal. We want our own cultures. We want our own languages. We want our own things to remember. We want our own generations of families. That's what we want in every country. Every culture has that, okay? And there's nothing wrong with it. But here's the thing, guys. They kind of leapt before they looked, and that saying, don't look before you leap, or you better look before you leap. Well, they didn't. They didn't over there in Europe, and to a certain extent, we didn't over here. Now, we're deporting a lot of people, and but again, this isn't as extreme as it is over there because there is no assimilation amongst those cultures. The Muslims from the Middle East are not going to assimilate with the Christians from England. They're just not going to do it. It's going to create two separate countries over there, and they're not going to have it. Okay, so you really have to look at this as a human nature thing. It's not an American thing or an England thing or any of that. It's just we want our own stuff, and we deserve it. We do, okay? We live on this ground. We were born on this ground. We pay taxes. We fight on this ground. We fought for this ground, and we're going to die on this ground, and we want to move on to our kids and on to their kids, and people don't want that to change, and it shouldn't, okay? But look. What's going on in the UK right now is a real powder keg. It's going to blow. I would imagine any time. I don't think it's going to be more than a couple more years, and it's going to take off, man. You're talking about real revolution, and I know the leadership is scared over there. They're doing everything they can do to censor all this stuff and calm it down, but it ain't calming down. It's just ramping up, and that protest on the 13th was a perfect example of that. Because if you saw those people, I mean, that many people in the streets, it really looked like an army. I mean, you could have probably seen that from space. It was that many people. But anyways, guys, I hope you like my video. I'll keep you up with any updates that I see. Please like and subscribe to my channel. I'll talk to you soon. This is your host, Eddie B. Have a good night.